The massive ship called Dominion's Edge floated in the dark space between stars. It was bigger than most cities on Earth. Inside its metal halls, creatures from hundreds of different worlds gathered in the Great Council Chamber. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others crawled on 6 legs or floated in special tanks filled with strange gases. All of them had one thing in common. They ruled the galaxy. Supreme Chancellor Vextar stood at the center of the chamber. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. 4 arms moved as he spoke, and his voice echoed through the room. Behind him, a huge screen showed images of human ships and colonies spreading across space like dots of light. "The humans have gone too far," Vextar said. His voice was cold and angry. "They refuse to follow our laws. They build colonies wherever they want. They act like they own the galaxy." The other council members made sounds of agreement. Some hissed. Others clicked their claws on the metal floor. A few spoke in languages that sounded like music or thunder. "We have been patient," continued a creature that looked like a giant spider. "We gave them warnings. We told them to slow down. They ignored us." Another alien, this one covered in scales, stood up. "The humans are young and stupid. They think their small ships and basic weapons make them strong. We must teach them who really rules here." Vextar raised one of his 4 hands. The room became quiet. "Today we end this problem. Send the message to Earth. Tell them they have 72 hours to surrender everything. Their ships, their weapons, their colonies, all of it. If they refuse, we will take it by force." Far away, on a blue and green planet called Earth, Admiral D. Lee Dongwu sat in his office high above the city of Neo-Seoul. Through the big windows, he could see the busy streets below. Flying cars moved between tall buildings that reached toward the sky. People walked on moving sidewalks, going about their daily lives. They had no idea that their world was about to change. The Admiral was not a young man. Gray streaks ran through his black hair, and lines marked his face from years of making hard decisions. He wore a simple blue uniform with silver stars on his shoulders. On his desk sat pictures of his family and a small plant his daughter had given him years ago. A soft beep came from his computer. A message had arrived from space. Lee Dong-woo touched the screen, and a hologram appeared in the air above his desk. It showed Vextar's alien face, blue and angry. "Humans of Earth," the alien said. "I am Supreme Chancellor Vextar of the Galactic Council. Your species has broken our laws. You have expanded too fast. You have refused to follow our rules. This ends now." The hologram showed pictures of human colonies on distant worlds, space stations around other stars, ships carrying people and supplies to new homes. "You have 72 standard hours to surrender," Vextar continued. "Remove all military ships from space. Abandon every colony outside your home system. Give up all weapons. Submit to council rule. If you refuse, we will force you to obey. Our fleet is already moving toward your world. Choose wisely." The message ended. The hologram disappeared. Lee Dong-woo sat in silence for a long moment. Then he touched another button on his desk. "Send a message to all ship captains," he said to his assistant. "Meeting in conference room 7 in 1 hour." An hour later, Captain Park Min-ho walked into the conference room aboard his ship, the Indomitable. The room was filled with other ship captains and senior officers. All of them had received the same message from the aliens. All of them looked worried. Park Min-ho was younger than the Admiral, but he had been in space for many years. His ship was not the biggest in the human fleet, but it was one of the fastest. His crew trusted him, and he had never lost a battle. Still, he knew that 72 hours was not much time to prepare for war against the entire galaxy. Admiral Lee Dong-woo entered the room. Everyone stood up and saluted. The Admiral gestured for them to sit down. "You have all seen the message," he said. The Galactic Council wants us to surrender everything we have built. Our colonies, our ships, our freedom. They think we are weak and stupid. Captain Park Min-ho looked around the room. Some officers looked angry. Others looked scared. A few looked confused. He wondered what the Admiral planned to do. Fighting. The entire galaxy seemed impossible. "Sir," said another captain, "their fleet has over 3,000 ships. We have maybe 300. Their weapons are more advanced than ours. How can we possibly win?" Lee Dong-woo walked to the big screen at the front of the room. He touched it, and it showed a star map of human space. Little blue dots marked their colonies and ships. "They think they know us," the Admiral said. "They think we are just another young species that will bow down to their power. They have studied our public records. They know about our ships and our weapons. They think they understand what we can do." He turned to face the room. For the first time since the meeting started, he smiled. It was not a worried smile or a fake smile. It was calm and confident. "But they do not know everything about us," he continued. "They do not know about the projects we have been working on in secret. They do not know about the preparations we have made for this exact situation." Captain Park Min-ho felt something change in the room. The worried looks on the other officers' faces began to fade. They leaned forward, listening carefully. "Activate Protocol Lazarus," Admiral Lee Dong-woo said. "Send the signal to every ship, every station, every colony. It is time they learned why we smile when faced with impossible odds." Dr. Kim So-young sat in the xenobiology lab deep inside the Terran Defense Command building. She was one of the few humans who had studied alien biology and psychology for years. Her job was to understand how other species thought and acted. Right now, she was watching recordings of the Alien Council meeting. "They are confident," she said to Commander Choi Hyun-wook, who stood beside her. "They believe their own propaganda about human weakness. They have convinced themselves that we are primitives who got lucky with space travel." Commander Choi worked in the intelligence division. His job was to gather information about potential enemies. For the past 10 years, he had been preparing for this day. "How much do they really know about us?" he asked. Dr. Kim touched her computer screen. Data flowed across it like water. "They know what we wanted them to know. Trade records, colony reports, ship manifests, all real, but not complete. They think our mining stations are just mining stations. They think our trade ships are just trade ships." She smiled, and it was the same kind of smile Admiral Lee Dong-woo had shown in the conference room. "They have no idea what we really built out there in the dark between the stars." The message from Admiral Lee Dong-woo reached every human ship and station in space at the same time. Most of the crews had been waiting for it. They knew this day might come. They had prepared for it. On the mining station called Delta 7, engineer Nam Ki-tai received the signal while he was checking the equipment. The station floated near an asteroid field, far from any major trade routes. To anyone watching, it looked like a simple mining operation. Nam Ki-tai walked to a wall panel that looked exactly like all the others. He placed his hand on it. The panel scanned his fingerprints and DNA. Then it opened, revealing controls that no mining station should have. "Attention all crew," he announced over the station's communication system. "Protocol Lazarus is now active. Mining operations are suspended. Defensive systems are online." All across human space, the same thing was happening. Colony ships that looked like peaceful transports opened hidden weapon ports. Trade stations revealed military-grade shields. Mining platforms that seemed defenseless suddenly bristled with enough firepower to destroy battleships. Captain Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched his tactical display. Little green lights appeared all across the star map. Each light represented a human installation that had just revealed its true nature. "Sir," said Lieutenant O.J. Sung, his communications officer, "we are receiving confirmation signals from all stations. Protocol Lazarus is fully active." Park Min-ho nodded. He had known this moment would come eventually. Humanity had been preparing for it since they first reached the stars and learned about the Galactic Council. Every colony, every mining operation, every seemingly innocent trade post had been built with two purposes. The first purpose was obvious: to spread humanity across the galaxy and build a better life for their people. The second purpose was hidden: to create the largest distributed defense network in galactic history. "Send a message to Admiral Lee Dong-woo," Park Min-ho said. "Tell him we are ready." Back on Earth, Admiral Lee Dong-woo sat in his office and watched the reports come in. Every human outpost was responding. Every hidden weapon was online. Every secret defensive system was powered up and waiting. He opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council. When Vextar's blue face appeared on the screen, the alien looked annoyed. "Have you made your decision, human?" Vextar asked. "Will you surrender as ordered?" Lee Dong-woo leaned back in his chair. His smile grew wider. "We have made our decision," he said. "We respectfully decline your generous offer." Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Then you choose destruction. Our fleet will arrive at your world in 48 hours. You cannot stand against the might of the galaxy." "We shall see," Admiral Lee Dong-woo replied. "We shall see." The Galactic Council's war fleet gathered at the edge of the Sol system like a storm made of metal and light. 3,000 ships from almost 1,000 different worlds formed the largest armada in galactic history. Some ships were as big as mountains. Others moved so fast they looked like streaks of light. All of them carried weapons that could destroy planets. Fleet Admiral Krextos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was a Xanthari, which meant he looked like a giant lizard that walked on 2 legs. His scales were dark green, and his yellow eyes could see things that human eyes could not. He had commanded fleets for over 200 years. He had conquered 50 worlds. He had never lost a battle. "Report," he growled to his officers. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "All ships are in position, Admiral," said his second-in-command. "The human system is completely surrounded. They have nowhere to run." Krextos looked at the tactical display. The human ships appeared as tiny red dots on the screen. There were so few of them, maybe 30 or 40 outdated. Cruisers. No massive battle stations, no defensive fleets, no orbital weapons platforms. "This is almost too easy," Krextos muttered. "Are we sure these humans are the same species that has been expanding so quickly?" His intelligence officer, a floating creature that looked like a jellyfish made of blue light, spoke in a voice like singing. "Our data is accurate, Admiral. These humans are primitives. They have only been in space for 200 of their years. Their weapons use simple kinetic energy. Their shields are basic electromagnetic barriers." Another officer, this one a spider-like creature with 8 arms, clicked its claws together. "Perhaps they realized how hopeless their situation is. Maybe they will surrender without a fight." Krextos studied the display more carefully. Something felt wrong, but he could not figure out what it was. In all his years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were telling him to be careful. "Have our scouts detected any hidden weapons? Any defensive systems we might have missed?" "Nothing, Admiral," the jellyfish creature replied. "Our scans show exactly what we expected. A few mining stations, some trade outposts, basic colony installations. Nothing that could threaten even one of our destroyers." On Earth, life continued as if nothing was happening. In the great city of Neo-Sol, people walked to work just like any other day. Children played in parks while their parents sat on benches and watched. Flying cars moved through the sky in orderly lines. Coffee shops served their usual customers. Everything seemed normal. But if someone looked very carefully, they might notice small things. The orbital elevators that carried cargo to space were working faster than usual. Ships were launching more often. And in the government buildings, people worked late into the night with serious expressions on their faces. Captain Yoon Ta-jin sat in his ready room aboard the colony ship New Horizon. The ship was stationed in the Kepler 442 system, 47 light-years from Earth. Through his window, he could see the planet his people had been terraforming for the past 5 years. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green continents. His communication officer knocked on the door. "Captain, we are receiving an emergency transmission from Earth." Yun Taijin activated his holographic display. Admiral Li Dongwu's face appeared in the air above his desk. "All colony ships are to implement evacuation protocols immediately," the admiral said. "This is not a drill. Move all civilian populations to designated safe zones. Military personnel will remain at their posts." The transmission ended. Yun Taijin sat quietly for a moment, looking out at the planet his people had worked so hard to build. Then he pressed his communication button. "Attention all hands," he announced. "This is the captain. Begin immediate evacuation of all civilian personnel. Transport ships will arrive within 6 hours. Pack only essential items." His first officer entered the ready room. She looked confused and worried. "Sir, the evacuation order mentions safe zones. Where exactly are we taking the civilians?" Yun Taijin smiled. It was the same kind of smile Admiral Li Dongwu had shown in the conference room. "To places the Galactic Council does not know exist." 6 hours later, transport ships arrived at the colony. They were big, plain-looking vessels that seemed designed only for moving cargo. But they moved with the smooth precision of military ships. Within hours, 50,000 colonists were aboard and departing for unknown destinations. The ship's manifests showed 50,000 passengers leaving, but somehow, the biometric readings showed that only civilian personnel had departed. All the military-age adults remained behind, even though they seemed to have vanished from the colony. Dr. Yonghai Wan worked in a laboratory deep beneath the Himalayan mountains on Earth. The facility was so secret that most government officials did not know it existed. She was Earth's leading expert in quantum mechanics, which was the science of how the smallest particles in the universe behaved. Her laboratory was filled with machines that hummed with power. Screens showed mathematical equations that would have given most people headaches just looking at them. In the center of the room sat a device that looked like a metal sphere covered in glowing crystals. "Status report," she said to her assistant, a young scientist named Dr. Park Chan-woo. "The quantum tunneling array is fully operational," he replied. "All 73 installations are online and synchronized. Power levels are stable." Dr. Jung-Hai Wan nodded. She had been working on this project for 15 years. It was based on scientific principles that the Galactic Council species had never discovered. In fact, most of them would probably say it was impossible. "Send a message to Admiral Li Dongwu," she said. "Tell him the sleeping giant protocol is ready. We can begin operations as soon as he gives the order." Her assistant looked nervous. "Doctor, are you sure this will work? We have only tested it on small objects." Dr. Jung-Hai Wan touched the quantum device gently. "The mathematics are perfect. The energy calculations are exact. It will work." "But the ethical implications," Dr. Park Chan-woo began. "We are not killing anyone," Dr. Jung-Hai Wan interrupted. "We are simply relocating them. They will be alive and unharmed. They just will not be able to bother us anymore." Back in space, Fleet Admiral Krextos received a report that made him even more suspicious. His scouts had been monitoring human communications, and they had detected unusual activity. "Admiral," his intelligence officer reported, "we are detecting increased ship movements throughout human space. Colony ships are departing their stations. Trade vessels are changing course. Mining operations appear to be shutting down." "Are they evacuating?" Krextos asked. "It appears so, sir, but the patterns are strange. Military-aged personnel seem to be staying behind while civilians are leaving." Krextos studied the tactical display again. If the humans were evacuating civilians, it meant they were preparing for war. But where were their weapons? Where were their defenses? "Continue monitoring," he ordered, "and prepare the fleet for immediate attack. I want to end this quickly." On the mining platform Delta 7, engineer Nam Ki-tae stood before a wall panel that now showed military-grade controls. The panel displayed power levels, weapon status, and shield strength. Numbers flowed across screens in patterns that would have been impossible on a simple mining station. "All systems are green," he reported to his crew. "Fusion reactors are operating at maximum efficiency. Defensive batteries are fully charged. Stealth field is active." His second-in-command, a woman named Lee Eun-jung, looked out the window at the asteroid field surrounding their station. "It still looks like a mining operation from the outside," Nam Ki-tae grinned. "That is the point. The Galactic Council sees what they expect to see. They look at our installations and see primitive mining equipment. They do not see the plasma cannons hidden inside the ore processors. They do not see the shield generators disguised as atmosphere scrubbers." All across human space, similar conversations were taking place. On trade stations that looked peaceful but carried enough firepower to destroy battleships. On colony worlds that seemed defenseless but were actually fortress planets. On transport ships that appeared to carry cargo but were actually mobile weapons platforms. Lieutenant Colonel Bae Soo-jin stood in the briefing room of a facility that did not officially exist. Her special operations team had been training for this mission for 3 years. They were experts in boarding enemy ships, sabotaging enemy equipment, and fighting in zero gravity. "The Galactic Council fleet will reach Earth in 36 hours, she told her team. "They expect to find a weak, primitive species that will surrender without a fight. Instead, they are going to discover that humanity has been preparing for this war since we first learned about the Council." One of her soldiers raised his hand. "Colonel, what exactly is our mission?" Bae Soo-jin activated a holographic display that showed the layout of a Galactic Council flagship. "We are going to capture their command ship. We are going to do it without firing a shot. And we are going to do it in a way that will make them understand that resistance is useless." The soldier looked confused. "How do we capture a ship without fighting?" "The same way a magician makes a rabbit disappear," the colonel replied. "We use technology they do not understand and cannot defend against." Captain Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched his crew fleet Admiral Krextos stood on the bridge of his flagship as the massive Galactic Council fleet entered the Sol system. His yellow eyes studied the tactical display, looking for any sign of human resistance. What he saw confused him even more. The human fleet was pathetically small. Maybe 40 ships, all of them old and outdated. They floated near Earth like leaves scattered on water. No battle formations, no defensive positions. Most surprising of all, they were broadcasting surrender signals. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the human ships are requesting permission to surrender. They say they do not wish to fight." Krextos narrowed his eyes. After all the defiant messages from Earth, after refusing the Council's ultimatum, now they wanted to surrender? It felt wrong. "It could be a trap," warned his tactical officer, a creature that looked like a walking tree with many arms. "What kind of trap?" Krextos asked. "Our sensors show no hidden weapons, no defensive installations. Their ships are barely armed. Even if this is some kind of trick, what could they possibly do against 3,000 ships?" His intelligence officer, the floating jellyfish creature, spoke in its musical voice. "Perhaps they realized how hopeless their situation truly is. Fear can make even the bravest species act wisely." Krextos considered this. It made sense. The humans had probably looked at his fleet and understood that resistance was impossible. Still, something felt wrong. In 200 years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. "Proceed with caution," he ordered. "Accept their surrender, but keep all weapons ready and scan everything twice." On Earth, Captain Park Min-ho sat in his ready room aboard the Indomitable. He was not reading military reports or studying battle plans. Instead, he held a small book of ancient Korean poetry. The words were hundreds of years old, written by masters who understood that the greatest victories often came through patience and wisdom rather than force. Lieutenant O.J. Sung entered the room. His face showed worry and confusion. "Captain, we just broadcast our surrender to the enemy fleet. The crew is asking questions. They want to know why we are giving up without a fight." Park Min-ho closed his book gently and looked at his young officer. "Tell me, Lieutenant, what do you see when you look at a mountain?" "Sir?" O.J. Sung looked confused by the question. A mountain appears to be just rock and stone, solid, unchanging. But beneath the surface, great forces are at work. Pressure builds. Energy accumulates. And when the time is right... Park Min-ho paused. The mountain reveals its true nature. The lieutenant still looked confused, but he nodded. "What are your orders, Captain?" Park Min-ho stood and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the council fleet approaching like a cloud of metal death. "Signal all ships. Execute Lazarus Protocol. It is time to wake the sleeping giant." The message went out on frequencies the Galactic Council could not detect. Across human space, from the inner planets to the farthest colonies, people received the signal they had been waiting for. The greatest deception in galactic history was about to be revealed. On mining platform Delta 7, engineer Nam Ki-tae stood before his disguised control panel. Around him, his crew worked at stations that looked like mining equipment but were actually military command centers. The asteroid field around their platform hid weapons that could destroy a battleship. "All stations report ready," announced Lee Yoon-jung from her position at what appeared to be an ore processing console. "Stealth fields are active. Weapons are charged. Targeting systems are locked onto the lead council ships." Nam Ki-tae looked out at the approaching enemy fleet. The aliens had no idea that what they thought was a simple mining operation was actually a fortress. They could not see the plasma cannons hidden inside the ore crushers. They could not detect the shield generators disguised as atmosphere processors. "Remember," Nam Ki-tae told his crew, "we are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to teach them. Fire only when I give the command." Similar scenes played out across the solar system. Trade stations revealed hidden weapon ports. Colony ships dropped their disguises to show military-grade armor and shields. Transport vessels that had appeared helpless suddenly bristled with advanced technology, but the most dramatic transformation happened on the planets themselves. Commander Shin Da-eun stood in the command center of what everyone believed was a terraforming station on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. The facility looked like a peaceful research base from the outside. Inside, it was something else entirely. "All defensive systems are online," she reported to her staff. "The Council fleet just passed our outer sensor grid. They have no idea what they are flying into." Her second-in-command looked at the massive display showing the approaching ships. "Commander, that terraforming dome we built last year contains more firepower than the entire Zenthari battle fleet," Shin Da-eun finished. "The atmospheric processors are actually particle beam generators. The research laboratories are command and control centers. And those communication arrays? They are targeting systems." The aliens flew deeper into the solar system, completely unaware that they were entering the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. Every asteroid, every space station, every seemingly innocent installation was actually part of a vast defensive network. Dr. Kim So-young sat in her laboratory on Earth, monitoring alien communications. Her screens showed the chatter between council ships as they approached. She could understand several alien languages, and what she heard made her smile. "They are confused," she reported to Commander Choi Hyun-wook. "They keep talking about how easy this is. They expected more resistance." Commander Choi studied the intercepts flowing across his screens. "What about their fleet positions?" "Perfect," Dr. Kim replied. "They are flying in standard conquest formation, spread out to cover maximum area, but grouped close enough for coordinated attacks. They have no idea they are positioning themselves exactly where we want them." She switched to another frequency and listened to more alien voices. The fleet commander is suspicious, but his officers are overconfident. They keep telling him that humans are primitives who got lucky with space travel. Good, Commander Choi said. Let them keep thinking that for a few more hours. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Council fleet reached Mars. A Zenthari destroyer, part of the advanced scout force, simply vanished. One moment it was there on every scanner, broadcasting its position and status. The next moment, it was gone. No explosion, no debris, no distress signal. It just stopped existing. Fleet Admiral Krextos stared at his tactical display in shock. Where did it go? His sensor officer, a creature with 6 eyes and tentacles for arms, worked frantically at his console. I do not know, Admiral. It was there, and then it was not. Our sensors show empty space where the ship used to be. Did it explode? No, sir. There was no energy discharge. No debris field. No electromagnetic pulse. It just disappeared. Krextos felt cold fear creeping up his spine. In 200 years of warfare, he had never seen anything like this. Ships did not just vanish into nothing. Send another destroyer to investigate, he ordered. The second destroyer approached the area where the first ship had disappeared. Its crew scanned carefully, looking for any sign of danger. They found nothing. Space appeared completely empty and safe. Then the second destroyer vanished too. This time, other ships were close enough to see it happen. One moment the destroyer was there, solid and real. The next moment there was nothing but empty space. It was as if the ship had never existed at all. Captain Lim Yoon-seok watched from the bridge of his stealth ship Ghost of Seoul. His vessel was invisible to Council sensors, hidden by technology the aliens could not detect. He had been following the enemy fleet since they entered the solar system. Captain, his sensor officer whispered, the quantum displacement field is working perfectly. Both enemy ships have been successfully relocated. Lim Yoon-seok nodded. He felt no joy in what they were doing. The crews of those ships were not dead. They were simply somewhere else now, in a place where they could not harm anyone. It was more merciful than the destruction the Council had planned for humanity. Maintain position, he ordered. Let them come deeper into the system. The more confused they become, the better. On the Council flagship, chaos was beginning to spread. 2 ships had vanished without explanation. The fleet's advance had slowed as commanders demanded answers that no one could provide. Could it be some kind of new weapon? Asked the tactical officer. What kind of weapon leaves no trace? Krextos replied. Our sensors detect no energy beams, no projectiles, no gravitational anomalies. The ships are simply gone. His intelligence officer floated nervously nearby. Perhaps it is a natural phenomenon, some kind of spatial anomaly that we did not detect. 2 ships hit by the same anomaly in the same area? Krextos shook his head. That is not natural. That is enemy action. He looked at the tactical display showing the human fleet still broadcasting surrender signals near Earth. Those ships looked harmless. Their weapons were basic. Their technology was primitive. How could they make Council ships disappear? Admiral, his communications officer announced, we are receiving a transmission from one of the human ships. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image. Fleet Admiral Krextos watched in growing horror as more of his ships began to disappear. First, it was just the 2 destroyers near Mars. Then a cruiser vanished while investigating Jupiter's moons. After that, an entire squadron of fighters simply stopped existing while on patrol near the asteroid belt. Each disappearance was the same. No explosion, no debris, no energy signatures. The ships were there one moment and gone the next, as if they had never existed at all. Admiral, his communications officer reported, his voice shaking, we have lost contact with 17 ships. All of them simply vanished from our sensors. Krextos stared at the tactical display. Red symbols marked where his ships had last been detected. Now those areas showed nothing but empty space. In 200 years of conquest, he had never faced anything like this. "Sir," his intelligence officer spoke in a trembling musical voice, "we are detecting no weapon signatures, no energy beams, no projectiles. Our science teams cannot explain how this is happening." The great fleet admiral felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Not fear of death, which he understood, but fear of the unknown. How do you fight an enemy that can make your ships disappear without a trace? On Earth, Dr. Kim So-young monitored the alien communications from her laboratory. The panic in the Council fleet was growing stronger by the hour. She could hear it in their voices, in the way their conversations had changed from confident commands to desperate questions. "They are beginning to understand," she reported to Commander Choi Hyun-wook. "Their fleet commanders are demanding explanations that their science officers cannot provide. Some ships are requesting permission to retreat." Commander Choi studied the intelligence reports flowing across his screens. "What about their morale?" "Breaking," Dr. Kim replied with satisfaction. "They came here expecting to fight primitives with simple weapons. Instead, they are facing technology they cannot understand or counter. It is like bringing swords to fight ghosts." She switched to another frequency and listened to more alien chatter. "The fleet commander is trying to maintain order, but his subordinates are losing confidence. Some are suggesting this whole system is cursed." Far from Earth, on the hidden facility beneath Titan's surface, Commander Shin Da-eun prepared to reveal the full extent of humanity's deception. What the Galactic Council believed was a simple terraforming station was actually the most heavily armed fortress in the solar system. "Bring all systems online," she ordered her staff. "It is time to show them what we really built out here." Around the chamber, control panels that had looked like atmospheric processors and research equipment revealed their true nature. Weapon targeting systems came alive. Shield generators hummed with power. The peaceful dome on the surface opened like a flower, revealing massive particle beam cannons that could destroy battleships. "Commander," her tactical officer reported, "we have weapons lock on the enemy flagship. Shall we fire?" Shin Da-eun shook her head. "Not yet. We are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to educate them." She activated the communication system and sent a message directly to Fleet Admiral Krextos. When his shocked face appeared on her screen, she smiled politely. "Admiral, I am Commander Shin Da-eun of the Titan Defense Platform. I wanted to inform you that you are currently in the targeting range of weapons that can vaporize your entire fleet. Please do not make any sudden movements." Krextos stared at the human woman in disbelief. "That is impossible. Our scanners show Titan as a simple research station." "Your scanners show what we wanted them to show," Shin Da-eun replied calmly. "Would you like a demonstration?" Before Krextos could respond, the space around his flagship lit up with targeting beams. Hundreds of them, coming from installations throughout the solar system. Every asteroid, every moon, every space station was revealing hidden weapons. The fleet's sensors went crazy as they detected energy signatures beyond anything in their databases. Weapons that should not exist. Technology that violated everything. They thought they knew about physics. "This is impossible," Krextos whispered. Captain Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the enemy fleet's formation begin to break apart. Ships that had been flying in perfect military order were now scattered and confused. Some were trying to retreat. Others were spinning in circles, searching for threats they could not see. "Sir," Lieutenant O.J. Sung reported, "the enemy fleet is in complete disarray. Several ships are requesting permission to surrender." Park Min-ho nodded. "Signal all human vessels. Begin Phase 2 of the operation." Across the solar system, ships that had been hiding using stealth technology suddenly appeared. Not just a few dozen outdated cruisers, but hundreds of advanced warships. The human fleet that the Council had dismissed as pathetic revealed itself to be larger and more sophisticated than anyone had imagined. Captain Yoon Tai-jin appeared on his bridge as his colony ship New Horizon dropped its disguise. What had looked like a simple transport vessel now showed its true nature, a mobile fortress bristling with weapons and protected by shields that glowed like captured starlight. "All civilian evacuees are safely away," he reported to his crew. "Now we show them why you never threaten human families." But the greatest shock was yet to come. In the space between Mars and Jupiter, Major Han Seol-ah of the Marine Corps materialized on the bridge of a Galactic Council command ship. She had not flown there in a transport. She had not beamed aboard using any technology the aliens recognized. One moment, the bridge was empty of humans. The next moment, she was standing there in full combat armor. The alien crew stared at her in terror. Some reached for weapons. Others tried to sound alarms. Major Han simply raised one hand and every electronic system on the ship stopped working. "Do not be afraid," she said in perfect Zenthari. "I am not here to hurt you. I am here to have a conversation with your captain." The ship's commander, a creature that looked like a walking tree with many eyes, stepped forward. "How did you get aboard my ship? Our shields were active. Our security systems were online." "Your shields cannot stop what they cannot detect," Major Han replied. "Your security systems cannot guard against technology that exists outside normal space." She touched a control on her armor, and holographic displays appeared throughout the bridge. They showed detailed schematics of every ship in the Council fleet, complete crew manifests, full weapon specifications, battle plans, and communication codes. "We know everything about your fleet," she continued. "We have been watching you since you left your home worlds. We know your weaknesses, we know your fears, and we know that you are not our real enemy." The alien captain's many eyes blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" "You are soldiers following orders," Major Han explained, "just like us. The real enemy is the arrogance that brought you here, the belief that might makes right. The idea that a younger species must automatically bow to an older one." Throughout the solar system, similar scenes were playing out. Human soldiers appeared on council ships using technology that seemed like magic. They did not fight. They did not threaten. They simply talked. Dr. Jung Hae-won watched the operation from her underground laboratory. Her quantum tunneling technology was working perfectly. Human troops could step through dimensional barriers as easily as walking through doorways. They could appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. "Status report," she said to her assistant. "All insertion teams are in position," Dr. Park Chan-woo replied. "We have personnel aboard every major ship in the enemy fleet. They are beginning the education process. Any resistance? Some confusion, but no violence. The aliens are too shocked to fight. They cannot understand how we are doing this." Back on the Council flagship, Fleet Admiral Krextos found himself face to face with Captain Lim Yoon-suk, who had somehow appeared in his private ready room. The human sat calmly in a chair, as if he had been invited for tea. "How?" was all Krextos could manage to say. "Quantum tunneling," Lim Yoon-seok explained. "We learned to move through parallel dimensions. Your sensors cannot detect us because we are not traveling through normal space. We are taking shortcuts through reality itself." Krextos sank into his own chair. "This is impossible. Our scientists say such technology cannot exist." "Your scientists are wrong," the human replied gently. "But that is not their fault. They have been thinking inside the box for so long that they forgot there was an outside." Lim Yoon-seok activated a small device, and the room filled with holographic images. They showed human colonies throughout the galaxy. Not just the ones the Council knew about, but hundreds of others. Secret settlements in hidden systems. Research stations in parallel dimensions. Entire worlds that existed just slightly out of phase with normal reality. "You thought you knew how many humans were in the galaxy," Lim Yoon-seok said. "You were wrong about that too. We have been spreading further and faster than you imagined. We have been preparing for this day since we first learned about the Galactic Council!" Krextos studied the images in growing amazement. "How many of you are there?" "Enough," the human replied. "But numbers are not what matter here. What matters is what we choose to do with our advantages." He leaned forward, and his expression became serious. "Admiral, we could destroy your entire fleet right now. We could make every ship disappear. Forever. We could end this war in minutes. But we choose not to. Do you know why?" Krextos shook his. 6 months later, the great assembly hall that had once housed the Galactic Council looked very different. The old throne where Supreme Chancellor Vexatar had ruled was gone. In its place stood a simple circular table surrounded by chairs of many different sizes and shapes. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat together as equals, discussing trade agreements and scientific exchanges instead of conquest and domination. Admiral Li Dongwu walked into the chamber, wearing not the uniform of Earth's military, but the simple blue robes of the elected supreme mediator of the new galactic commonwealth. The transformation still amazed him sometimes. 6 months ago, these same aliens had demanded humanity's surrender. Now they looked to humans for leadership and guidance. "The session will come to order," he announced in a calm voice. Around the table, creatures from across the galaxy settled into their seats. Former enemies now worked together as partners. Ambassador Kong Min-ji stood at her position near the center of the table. She was young for such an important role, but she had proven herself during the peace negotiations. Her job was to help. Species that had been enemies for centuries learned to work together. "Today we will discuss the trade proposal from the Altarian Empire," she said. "They wish to exchange their crystal technology for human quantum tunneling research." A blue-skinned Altarian representative raised one of his 4 hands. "The Altarian people offer our most advanced energy crystals. They can power a city for 100 years without replacement." Dr. Seo Wanbin, who led the joint research projects between species, consulted his notes. "Human scientists are interested in this exchange. Our quantum technology can help your ships travel faster between stars. Your crystals can help us build better space stations." The discussion continued peacefully. No threats, no demands, no ultimatums. Just intelligent beings working together to make life better for everyone. In the military section of the station, Fleet Admiral Park Min-ho met with his staff to review the integration of former Council fleets into the Commonwealth Defense Force. His former enemy, Admiral Krextos, now served as his second in command. The giant lizard-like Zenthari had learned to respect human methods. "Status report," Park Min-ho requested. "All former Council ships have been refitted with quantum displacement technology," Krextos reported. "Their crews are adapting well to our nonviolent approach to conflict resolution. It had been strange at first, teaching alien warriors that the goal of military force was not to destroy enemies, but to protect innocent people. Many of the Council species had spent centuries believing that might made right. Learning a different way took time. "What about the patrol reports from the outer systems?" Park Min-ho asked. "Excellent news," replied Captain Yoon Tae-jin, who now commanded the exploration fleets. "We have made contact with 3 new species this month, all peaceful encounters, no shots fired." This was the new way. When Commonwealth ships met unknown species, they did not demand submission. They offered friendship, trade, and knowledge. Most civilizations responded positively when they learned they had nothing to fear. Dr. Young-Hai Wan worked in her laboratory, but it was no longer hidden beneath mountains. The quantum research facility now orbited Earth openly, welcoming scientists from across the galaxy. Creatures who had once been enemies now worked side by side, pushing the boundaries of science. "The dimensional gateway is stable," her assistant, Dr. Park Chan-woo, reported. "We can now transport supplies instantly between any 2 points in the galaxy." Dr. Jung-hae Won smiled as she watched alien scientists studying human technology with wonder and excitement. The same quantum tunneling that had won the war was now being used to deliver food to hungry colonies and medical supplies to distant worlds. "Have we heard from the exploration teams in parallel dimensions?" she asked. "Yes," Dr. Park Chan-woo replied. "They have discovered 17 alternate realities where life never evolved. We can use those dimensions for waste disposal and dangerous experiments without risking any living beings." The applications seemed endless. Quantum technology was revolutionizing everything from transportation to manufacturing, but more importantly, it was being shared freely with all species. Humans had not kept their advantages secret. They had given them away. On the colony world of New Haven, Commander Shin Da-un stood in a garden where human children played alongside young aliens. Zenthari hatchlings chased Altarian crystal moths, while human kids taught them Earth games. The sight never failed to make her smile. "Ma'am," her aide reported, "the terraforming project is ahead of schedule. The Altarian energy crystals are working better than expected." "And the defensive systems?" she asked. "All non-violent restraint systems are operating perfectly. We can disable any hostile ship without harming the crew." This was humanity's greatest achievement. They had created weapons that could stop any enemy without killing anyone. Ships could be frozen in place, their weapons disabled, their crews safely contained until peaceful solutions could be found. Major Han Seol-ah no longer led marine assault teams. Instead, she commanded the Commonwealth Peacekeeping Force. When conflicts arose between species, her teams would appear using quantum tunneling to separate the fighting sides and force them to talk instead of shoot. "Today's mission was successful," she reported to her superiors. "The Rigelian trade dispute has been resolved. Both sides agreed to mediation instead of warfare. Her soldiers were trained not as warriors, but as negotiators. They carried restraint, weapons, and diplomatic translation devices. Their job was to prevent wars, not win them." In his office overlooking the busy Commonwealth capital on Earth, Admiral Lee Dong-woo met with a special visitor. Dr. Kim So-young had brought a young alien student to see him. The creature looked like a small elephant with tentacles and large, curious eyes. "This is Zixara," Dr. Kim explained. "She is studying human culture for her dissertation on peaceful conflict resolution." The young alien spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "Supreme Mediator, I have studied the records of your war with the Council. I have one question that I cannot understand." "What question?" Lee Dong-woo asked kindly. "When faced with overwhelming odds, when threatened with destruction, why did humans smile? My professors cannot explain this reaction." Lee Dong-woo leaned back in his chair and looked out the window at the bustling city below. Ships from 100 worlds landed and took off from the spaceport. Beings who had once been enemies now worked together in harmony. "We smiled," he said finally, "because we were not afraid of losing. We were not even confident that we would win. We smiled because we knew that no matter what happened, we would teach the galaxy something important." "What lesson?" the young alien asked. "That strength is not about how much you can destroy. True strength is about how much you can preserve while still protecting what matters most." Dr. Kim So-young nodded approvingly. "The human concept of victory is different from most species. They do not seek to defeat their enemies. They seek to transform them into friends." The young alien's eyes grew even larger. "So the smile was not confidence in victory?" "No," Lee Dong-woo replied. "The smile was confidence in our values. We knew that even if we lost the war, we would lose it in a way that honored our principles. We would show the galaxy that there was a better path than endless conquest." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, a group of human children were teaching alien visitors how to play an ancient Earth game called soccer. The aliens were terrible at it, but they were laughing as they tried. "You see," he continued, "we did not fight to prove we were stronger. We fought to prove we were better. And the only way to prove you are better is to act better, even when faced with destruction." The young alien was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, she spoke again. And now, the galaxy follows human leadership because you showed mercy when you could have shown force. The galaxy follows human leadership because we proved that power and wisdom can work together, Li Dongwu corrected. We showed that the strongest species in the galaxy was also the kindest. As the day ended, Li Dongwu stood on his balcony and looked up at the stars. Ships traveled between them, now carrying not weapons of war, but tools of peace. Scientists and artists, teachers and students, families looking for new homes, and adventurers seeking new discoveries. The Galactic Council had ordered humanity to surrender. Instead, humanity had surrendered the old way of thinking. They had given up the idea that strength meant destruction, that victory meant domination, that different species could not work together. In return, they had gained something far more valuable than conquest. They had gained a galaxy full of friends, and that, Li Dongwu thought as he watched a ship full of young beings from dozen different worlds depart for a joint scientific expedition, was why humanity had smiled when faced with impossible odds. They had known that no matter what happened, the universe was about to become a better place. The war that was supposed to end human expansion had instead begun the greatest period of growth and cooperation in galactic history. And it all started with a simple human smile that said, "We are not afraid of you because we know something you do not. We know that the universe is big enough for all of us,